I, their aunt, found my nephews abandoned at Christmas. Note, we're on a cruise, a lesson. I set a 60-min timer. Come back or police. They didn't know I had proof to end their online slander. I saw them when I put my bag on the porch and was looking for my keys in my jacket pocket. 2 children, on my doorstep, in the dark. At first, I thought I was imagining things. A long shift at the airport, 3 canceled flights, a scandal with a pilot who got drunk before takeoff. I pulled a backup crew from the schedule 2 hours ago, and now my brain was on autopilot. December 24th, Christmas Eve. All I wanted was a shower, wine, and a TV series. But the children weren't going away. Auntie Amy? Jason, my 7-year-old nephew, called softly and stepped into the light of the lantern. Behind him stood Chloe, 5 years old, with big, frightened eyes. I dropped my keys. Jason, what are you doing here? Where's your mom? The boy stood in a thin jacket that was already too small for him, with a backpack on his shoulders. Chloe was shivering, her lips blue. I rushed to them, hugged them both, and felt how cold they were. How long have you been standing here? I don't know, Jason mumbled. Grandma brought us here and told us to wait. She said you'd be here soon. Grandma, Wendy, my mom. When? When did she bring you here? It was already dark. Jason shrugged. She was in a hurry. She said you'd know. I didn't know anything. I unlocked the door, pushed the children inside, turned on the lights and the heating to maximum. Chloe stood motionless, staring at the floor, and then I noticed a dark stain on her jeans. Sweetie, I crouched down in front of her and took her by the shoulders. She was scared. Jason quickly interjected. There was a dog barking. A big one. She didn't mean to. Chloe started crying, quietly, without a sound, the way children cry when they're afraid of being punished. It's okay, sweetie, I hugged her. Let's get changed, okay? It's not your fault. I'm not mad. I took her to the bathroom, found some old yoga pants that could be tied with a drawstring, and while Chloe washed her face and Jason stood by the bathroom door like a guard, I finally took out my phone. 3 missed calls, none from my mom, 2 from Rena, my flight attendant friend, 1 message from someone at work. I dialed my mom's number. She hung up after the first ring. I dialed again. She hung up. The 3rd time, I got her answering machine. Mom. I tried to speak calmly, but my voice was shaking. What the hell? Why are the kids at my door? Call me back right away. I dialed Liam, my younger brother. His phone was off. I called his wife, Hazel. Same thing. Jason came out of the bathroom holding Chloe's hand. She looked a little better. Warmer, at least. Are you hungry? I asked, even though the answer was obvious. Grandma said we ate, Jason mumbled. When? He fell silent. When was the last time you ate, Jason? This morning, he admitted quietly. At Grandma's cereal. I glanced at the clock. 10 o'clock at night. I didn't scream. I couldn't scream because the children were looking at me as if I were the last person in the world they could trust. Instead, I went to the kitchen and took out everything I could find in the refrigerator. Leftover chicken, pasta, bread, cheese. In 10 minutes, an improvised sandwich was ready. The children ate silently, quickly, without looking up. I sat across from them, watching them, my stomach churning with anger. Jason, I waited for him to swallow. What did Grandma say? Exactly. What did she say when she brought you here? He put down his sandwich. She said you needed practice, and that Mom and Dad had gone away, but they'd be back soon. Gone where? I don't know. Chloe wiped her mouth with her sleeve and squeaked. Grandma said Mom and Dad went to work, but Dad doesn't work in the evening. I took out my phone and logged into Facebook. Mom's profile loaded slowly. She liked to post everything, selfies, quotes, memes. The last post was 2 hours ago. Photo. Wendy in huge sunglasses. Next to her, a man in his 50s with gray stubble and a Hawaiian shirt, both with glasses in their hands behind them. The blue sea and the deck of a ship. Caption. We deserve this vacation, finally living for ourselves. Hawaii freedom from family. Caribbean cruise, new life. I reread it 3 times. Freedom from family. Cruise 2 hours ago. I scrolled further. Another photo. A cruise terminal, a sign saying, Miami. Comments from my mom's friends. Well done. You deserve it. Have a good rest, beautiful. I clicked on the man in the Hawaiian shirt, Roger Kinney, mechanic, 52 years old, in a relationship with Wendy Karen. I didn't even know Mom had someone. Aunt Amy? Jason looked at me with concern. Are you angry? I put down my phone. No, sweetie, not at you. Chloe yawned and snuggled up to her brother. Her eyes were closing. I got up and picked her up. She was so light, almost weightless. Jason followed me as I carried Chloe to the living room, laid her on the sofa, and covered her with a blanket. The boy sat down next to her without taking off his jacket. You can take off your jacket, I said softly. It's warm in here. He looked at me, then at Chloe, and finally unzipped his jacket. Underneath was a thin sweater. I went to the bedroom, took a blanket and pillows out of the closet, and made up the sofa for both of them. Jason lay down without asking if he could, just lay down and stared at the ceiling. Sleep, I said, sitting down on the edge of the sofa. We'll figure it out tomorrow. Is Mom coming? He whispered. I didn't know what to say. We'll see, I said finally. Go to sleep, Jason. When his breathing evened out, I went to the kitchen and dialed my mother's number again. I hung up. I wrote in the messenger, Mom, what have you done? Why are the kids at my doorstep? Where are Liam and Hazel? Call me right now. The message remained unread. I sat down at the table, put my head in my hands, and tried to figure out what was going on. Mom went on a cruise with some guy named Roger. She left her grandchildren on my doorstep without warning, with a note. I rushed to the front door where the children's backpacks were lying. In the pocket of one of them was a crumpled sheet of lined notebook paper. Amy, Roger and I are on a Caribbean cruise until New Year's. This is an experience for you. You'll finally learn what responsibility is. The kids have eaten. Don't be dramatic, Mom. No apology, no explanation. Experience. Responsibility. I crumpled the paper, but then smoothed it back out. It was evidence. I spent the next 30 minutes methodically gathering evidence. Screenshots of Mom's posts, screenshots of Roger's profile, screenshots of our latest correspondence, where she complained about ungrateful children and wrote that she deserves a personal life. And then I opened the folder I kept separate, the one no one knew about. A month ago, my mother created a family chat with relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles. I was there, and I read what she wrote about me. Emily is alone again for the holidays. She'll be 30 soon and still no husband. I've given up hope of grandchildren from her. She's so obsessed with work, she'll probably die an old maid with cats. Amy has always been strange. She doesn't know how to build relationships. She's selfish. I saved everything, every message, every comment. Now I opened the messenger, created a new message for my mother, and wrote, Come back right now, or I'll call the police and child services. You left your young children alone. I have proof. You have 60 minutes. I set a timer on my phone. I pressed send. The message remained unread. I waited. I watched the numbers on the timer decrease. 59 minutes, 58, 57. I took out my phone and logged into Facebook. My mom's profile loaded slowly. She liked to post everything, selfies, quotes, memes. The last post was 2 hours ago. Nothing had changed. In the living room, Jason rolled over in his sleep and hugged Chloe. They slept in their jackets on my couch, abandoned by their own grandmother on the doorstep of a stranger's house. My grandmother. My mother. 40 minutes. 30. 20. No answer. 10 minutes. 5. The timer vibrated. 60 minutes had passed. I looked at the children, at the note, at the phone, and then I did what I should have done an hour ago. I opened my contacts, found the number I had saved after last year's incident at the airport when I had to call the police because of a drunk passenger. Curtis Drummond, a private investigator. He investigated the luggage theft and helped us catch the thief. I wrote to him, Curtis, this is Emily Karen from the airport. Do you remember me? I need help urgently. It's a family matter. Can you call me? The reply came 2 minutes later. I remember. I'll call you in 5 minutes. I got up and went to the window. It was snowing outside. Christmas Eve. Christmas. The children were on my sofa. Mom was on a cruise. And I, with the phone in my hand, was ready to do something that would change our family forever. The phone rang. Curtis Drummond spoke in the same calm, slightly hoarse voice he had used a year ago when he helped us catch a thief at the airport. Back then, he seemed reliable to me. Not the type to promise the moon, but the type who just did his job. Emily, good evening, he said. What happened? I told him, briefly, without unnecessary emotion, even though I was boiling inside. The kids at the door. The note. Mom on a cruise. My brother and his wife aren't answering. Curtis was silent for a few seconds after I finished. Did you call the police? Not yet. Why? I didn't know how to explain. What if I'm wrong? What if there's some explanation I'm not seeing? What if I make things worse? I want to understand what's going on first, I said finally. Mom isn't crazy. She's selfish, but not so much that she would just abandon her grandchildren for no reason. Something's wrong, and I want to know what it is. Okay, Curtis didn't argue. I can come tomorrow morning. We'll talk and make a plan. Bring everything you have. The note, screenshots, any contacts. We'll figure out what's going on. Thank you. And Emily, if the children are in danger, call the police. Don't wait. They're with me. They're safe. Okay, see you tomorrow then. I hung up the phone and felt the tension ease a little. At least I was doing something, not just sitting and waiting. The next morning, December 25th, I woke up to silence, a strange, unusual silence. The children were sleeping, curled up on the sofa, Jason hugging Chloe. I got up quietly, covered them with another blanket, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. Curtis arrived at 9. Tall, thin, wearing a dark jacket and jeans, with a small tablet under his arm. He looked the same as he did a year ago. A little tired, a little wary, but attentive. Where are the kids? He asked as he came in. Still asleep. He nodded, sat down at the table, and opened his tablet. Tell me everything in order. When was the last time you saw your brother? I thought for a moment. When? 3 weeks ago. A month? Probably a month ago, I admitted. We're not very close. Liam is 2 years younger than me, but we were never friends. He got married early, had children. I worked a lot. We saw each other on holidays sometimes. What about your mother? When was the last time you saw her? 2 weeks ago. She stopped by for coffee. She complained about Liam, that he doesn't call or visit. I thought it was just her usual drama. What did she say about Liam? That he's become nervous, that Hazel looks tired, that the children were neglected. But my mother always complains about someone, so I didn't pay any attention. Curtis wrote something down. Give me the phone numbers of your brother and his wife, the address where they live, the names of their neighbors if you know them, and your mother's contact information, everything you have. I dictated everything I could remember. Curtis worked quickly, methodically, without unnecessary words. Okay, I'll find out where your brother is. It's usually not difficult. If a person doesn't want to disappear for real, they leave traces. Phone calls, bank cards, social networks. Give me a few hours. He left, and I stayed with the children. Jason woke up first, looked around in confusion until he saw me. Aunt Amy? Good morning, sweetie. Are you hungry? He nodded. Chloe woke up too, rubbed her eyes with her fists, and asked quietly, Is Mom coming? I didn't know what to say, so I just said, Let's have breakfast first, okay? While the kids were eating pancakes, I called Jason's school. Answering machine. Christmas. Everything is closed. I left a message asking them to call me back urgently. Then I called Chloe's preschool, answering machine again. I left the same message. Jason watched me from behind his plate. "Aunt Amy, we haven't been to school in a long time," he said quietly. I slowly put the phone down. "How long, Jason?" He shrugged. "I don't know. 2 weeks, I guess. Dad said we were on vacation." "But vacation just started." "I know." He poked at his pancake with his fork. "I told Dad, but he said I was wrong." I sat down next to him. "Jason, what's been going on at home this past month? Tell me. I need to know." He paused, then looked at Chloe, who was drawing with a pencil on a napkin. "Mom and Dad were fighting," he admitted quietly. "A lot. Dad was yelling." I didn't understand what it was about, but he said something about money and about someone who wanted to take the house away. Who wanted to take it away? I don't know, but Dad was scared. He told Mom they had to leave. Mom cried. She didn't want to. Chloe raised her head. "And then a man came," she said quietly. "What man?" I looked at her. "I don't know. He was tall. He spoke loudly. Dad talked to him outside the door. I was scared." Jason nodded. "I was scared too. That man was angry." My phone rang. Curtis. "Emily, I found out." His voice was serious. "Your brother isn't home. Neighbors say they saw him and his wife loading things into their car about a week ago at night. They thought they were moving. No one has seen them since." "What?" "Their phones are off. Their bank cards haven't been used since December 20th. The last payment was at a gas station somewhere outside the city, on the highway to the west." "Did they run away?" "It looks that way. But there's something else. Your mother took the children on December 20th. The same day your brother disappeared. That's not coincidence." I looked at Jason and Chloe sitting at the table, small, scared, abandoned. "So Mom knew," I whispered. "She knew Liam was running away and she took the kids to dump them on me." "Looks like it," Curtis agreed. "But the question is, what is your brother running from?" I spent the next few hours trying to find the answer. I called Jason's school. This time, the secretary answered, and I introduced myself as their aunt. She was surprised to hear that I had the children with me. "Where are their parents?" she asked cautiously. "I'm trying to find out," I replied honestly. "Has Jason been acting unusually lately?" The secretary paused. "I can't disclose that information unless you're the parent." "The children are with me because their parents are missing," I said firmly. "I need to know if there's anything that can help me find them." Another pause. Then, "Mrs. Garland, Jason's teacher, said she was worried about him. He had become very quiet. He drew dark pictures. Houses without doors, people without faces. She wanted to talk to his parents, but they didn't come to the meetings." I tuned out and just sat there staring at the wall. Dark pictures, houses without doors. I walked over to Jason and crouched down in front of him. "Sweetie, tell me what happened that morning when your mom and dad disappeared." He looked at me fearfully. "I didn't do anything wrong." "I know, it's not your fault. Just tell me." He sighed. "We woke up and they were gone. I thought they had gone to work, but then Grandma came. She said Mom and Dad had left and that we would be staying with her for a few days. She seemed angry. She was in a big hurry when she picked us up." "And then what?" "Then we were at Grandma's. She fed us, but she was on the phone the whole time. She was yelling at someone. She said it wasn't her problem, that she had done enough." Chloe nodded. "She was crying," she added quietly. "Grandma was crying at night. I heard her." I felt the anger rising in me again. Wendy took the children knowing their parents had run away. She kept them for 5 days, then just dumped them on me so she could go on a cruise. I opened Facebook and found Roger Kinnon's profile. I looked through his page, photos of cars, jokes, selfies with friends, no mention of his wife. But in his friends list, I found a woman with his last name, Clarissa Kinnon. I wrote her a private message. Good afternoon. Sorry to intrude, but are you Roger Kinnon's wife? My mom is on a cruise with him right now. I thought you should know. The reply came 10 minutes later. What? Which mom? Roger said he went to visit his brother in Texas. I sent a screenshot of a photo from the cruise. Clarissa replied with one word: bastard. Over the next hour, the scandal erupted. Clarissa wrote an angry comment under her mother's photo. Other people joined in. Someone wrote, "Wendy, where are your grandchildren?" Someone else wrote, "Did you really abandon your children for a cruise?" But finally, my mother got in touch. A message came through on Messenger, short and angry. "Emily, what have you done? Why are you interfering in my life? Call me right now." I dialed her number. She answered after the second ring. "Are you crazy?" she shouted instead of saying hello. "Did you write to Clarissa? You ruined my relationship." "I ruined it." My voice rose, and I quickly glanced at the children who were looking at me in fear. I went into the bedroom and closed the door. "You left the children on my doorstep, Mom, without warning, with a note. It's none of your business. The children are with me, so now it is my business. Liam and Hazel are gone. Where are they?" Pause, short but eloquent. "How should I know?" Mom's voice turned cold. "They're adults. They do what they want." "You took the kids the same day they disappeared," I said slowly. "You knew. You always knew. I don't owe you any explanations." "You abandoned your young children. I left them with you, safe, with you," she was shouting now. "You were always so proper, so responsible. Here's your responsibility. You wanted children. You dreamed of a family. Here they are. Be happy. You're crazy. No, I'm tired." Her voice broke. "I've sacrificed my whole life for everyone. Liam, you, my grandchildren, I want to live for myself. It's my turn. At the expense of the children. You'll sit with them for a few days. You won't die, or what? Do you need something from me again? You always want something. A few days until New Year's. That's a week. So what? I deserve this rest, and I'm not going to put anything off." I was silent. I was just silent because I didn't know what to say. The woman in front of me was not my mother. It was a strange, selfish, cold woman I didn't know. "You're selfish," I finally said quietly. "You always have been, but I thought that at least you wouldn't do this to your grandchildren. Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what it's like to be a mother." She hung up. She just hung up. I stood in the middle of the bedroom, trembling with anger and helplessness. My phone vibrated. A message from my mother. "You'll regret this. I won't forgive you." I replied briefly, "Me too." In the evening, when the children were already asleep, I received a message from an unknown number. "If you want to know where your brother is, let's meet. Come alone. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Coffee shop on Aaron Street. Don't be late." I read the message over and over again, my heart pounding. Who was this? How did they find out about me? And what did they know about Liam? I forwarded the screenshot to Curtis. He replied immediately, "Don't go alone. It could be dangerous." But I already knew I was going. The coffee shop on Aaron Street was one of those places where they serve coffee in paper cups and no one knows anyone. I arrived 15 minutes before 2 o'clock, sat by the window, and ordered an espresso that I had no intention of drinking. The children stayed with Rena. My friend took the day off and came as soon as I asked her to. She didn't ask any questions, just hugged me and said, "I'm with you." Now I was sitting alone, clutching my phone under the table, trying not to think about how pointless it was. Harmless to meet a stranger who wanted who knows what, but I needed answers about Liam, about what happened, about why he abandoned his own children. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the coffee shop door opened and a man walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket with a sharp face and cold eyes. He scanned the room, stopped at me, approached without invitation, and sat down across from me. "Emily Karen?" His voice was low, slightly hoarse. "Yes. And you?" "Dwayne Coltrane." He didn't extend his hand. "Thank you for coming. Who are you?" "I'm the one looking for your brother." He took a folder out of his pocket and placed it on the table between us. He opened it. Inside were photos of Liam, his car, the house where he lived, and documents. Loan agreements, receipts, bills. "Your brother owes $30,000, Dwayne said calmly, as if he were talking about the weather. "And documents, credit agreements, receipts, bills." "Your brother owes $30,000, Dwayne said calmly, as if he were talking about the weather. "Loans, interest-bearing loans, gambling debts. He hasn't paid in 6 months. My clients want their money back." I looked at the papers, trying to make sense of the numbers. 30,000. How? "I don't understand," I whispered. "Liam works at a factory. Hazel works too. How could they—" "Medical bills," Dwayne interrupted. "Your niece, Chloe, was sick 3 years ago. Heart surgery. Insurance didn't cover everything. Your brother borrowed money to pay for it. Then he borrowed money to pay off his previous debts. Then he tried to win it back at the casino. Classic story." I remembered Jason's words. "Dad was yelling about money, about someone who wants to take our house. And now you're looking for him," I said quietly. "Yes, but he's gone, with his wife. I know they left the state, probably headed west, maybe Nevada, maybe California. They forged documents, took the cash they managed to gather, and fled. And what do you want from me?" Dwayne leaned across the table, his eyes growing even colder. "I want you to help me find him. You have contacts, information that could be useful, relatives, friends, places he might have gone. If you help me, I'll find him faster, and then the children won't get hurt." My heart was pounding. "What do you mean?" "The debt doesn't go away," he said slowly. "If I don't find your brother, my clients will look for other ways to get their money back. Through the family, through his mother, through you. It was a threat, disguised as a proposal, but a threat nonetheless." I moved away from the table. "I don't know where he is, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." Dwayne smiled, coldly, without warmth. "I was hoping you'd be smarter than that. Your brother abandoned his own children to save his own skin. Do you really want to protect him?" "I'm not protecting him." I stood up. "I'm just not going to work for you." Dwayne also stood up, slowly, menacingly. "Think again, Emily. 30,000 is a lot of money. Someone has to pay. It's better if it's not you." I left the coffee shop without looking back. My hands were shaking as I got into the car. $30,000 debts. Debt collectors. Liam didn't just disappear. He ran away from people who won't stop. I called Curtis. "I met with him," I said quickly. "A debt collector. He says Liam owes 30,000. "Name?" "Dwayne Coltrane." Curtis wrote something down. "I'll look into him." "But Emily, if he's a real debt collector, this is serious." "These people don't mess around." "I know. Did you tell him anything?" "No, I refused to cooperate." "Good. Stay away from him. I'm working on finding your brother through other means." I hung up and just sat in the car, staring into space. Liam left the children because he feared for his life, i.e. some Hazel went with him. They both left Jason and Chloe to save themselves. And my mom knew. She always knew. The next day, December 27th, Mom returned from her cruise, but not to her own home. She moved in with Roger, in his apartment on the outskirts of town. I found out on Facebook. She posted a photo of our cozy little nest, a selfie with Roger in front of a Christmas tree they had probably just bought. Not a word about the kids. Not an apology. I called her. She answered after the 5th ring. "What do you want, Emily?" "When are you going to pick up the kids?" I tried to speak calmly. "Not now." "What do you mean, not now?" "It means I can't take them right now. I have a new life. I need time to get everything sorted out." "Mom, they're your grandchildren." "So what? I've already raised my own children. I deserve my freedom." I felt the anger rising again, sharp and burning. "You left them on my doorstep." "With a note. You didn't even warn me." You always wanted children, she replied coldly. Here's your chance. Maybe you'll finally grow out of your childhood dreams of perfect motherhood. Something inside me broke. I'm coming to you, I said, and hung up. Rena stayed with the children, and I went to Roger's. I found the address on his profile. He wasn't hiding. A small apartment in an old building, second floor. I climbed the stairs and knocked on the door. Roger opened the door, short, a little overweight, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. Yes? He looked at me in surprise. I'm Emily, Wendy's daughter. I need to talk to her. He stepped aside and let me in. The apartment was small and cluttered, smelling of mustiness and cheap cigarettes. Mom was sitting on the couch, watching TV, wearing a bathrobe and holding a cup of coffee. What are you doing here? She asked sharply. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I moved closer and stood in front of her. You abandoned your children. Your grandchildren were sleeping on my doorstep in wet pants. Chloe wet herself out of fear, because you left them alone in the dark. Jason thought you had forgotten about them. They are hungry, scared, and they don't understand what happened. And all you can say is that you need time. Wendy put her cup on the table and stood up. Don't you dare blame me. I did what I could. I took them when Liam ran away. I fed them for 5 days. I'm not going to sacrifice my life again for someone else's mistakes. They're your grandchildren, and they're Liam's children, not mine. He abandoned them, not me. But you left them on my doorstep because you're the only one I could leave them with, she shouted now. You're alone. You have no one. No husband, no children, no life. At least you'll be of some use. Huh. The words hit me like a slap in the face. I stood there, looking at her, not recognizing this woman. My mother, the woman who gave birth to me, raised me, whom I loved despite everything. Do you really think so? I whispered. Yes, she insisted. You've always been so proper, so polite. You've always done everything right. And where has that gotten you? You're 27, alone with no prospects, no future. At least take care of the children. Maybe you won't screw that up. Roger tried to intervene. Wendy, calm down. Shut up. She barked at him, and he fell silent. I looked at her, and something inside me grew cold and hard. Okay, I said quietly. If that's the case, then I'll do what I should have done a long time ago. I took out my phone and opened Facebook. What are you doing? My mother asked suspiciously. I didn't answer. I just uploaded a photo, the note she had left, screenshots of our conversations where she refused to take the children, so photos of Jason and Chloe on my doorstep, cold and scared. And I wrote, "This is my mother, Wendy Karen. She left her grandchildren on my doorstep on Christmas Eve to go on a cruise with her new boyfriend. The children haven't seen their parents in 2 weeks. Their father, my brother, disappeared, running away from his debts. My mother knew about it, and instead of helping, she dumped the children on me with a note. That's not motherhood, that's selfishness. And I want everyone to know the truth." I pressed, publish. My mother rushed at me, tried to grab the phone, but I backed away. "What have you done? Delete it right now." "No, Emily, delete it. You're destroying me. You destroyed yourself." I left. I walked out of the apartment, down the stairs, and got in the car. My hands were shaking as I held the steering wheel. My phone exploded with messages, comments, reposts, reactions. The post was spreading. Within an hour, hundreds of people had seen it. Within 2 hours, thousands. Someone shared it in a local news group. Someone wrote to journalists. By evening, I had received calls from 2 local TV channels and a newspaper. I only responded to the newspaper, briefly, without unnecessary emotion. I told them the facts, about the note, about the children, about how their mother still refuses to take them back. The article came out the next morning, with a photo of the mother taken from her Facebook page, with my comments, with the reactions of people who condemned Wendy, calling her a terrible grandmother, a selfish person, a monster. My mother called me 20 times. I didn't answer. Then she wrote, You ruined my life. I got fired from my job. Roger says I have to move out. People are sending me threats. It's all your fault. I hate you. You're no longer my daughter." I read the message and felt nothing. No regret, no guilt, just emptiness. The children were with me. They were safe. And my mother got what she deserved. That night, after Jason and Chloe were asleep, Curtis called me. His voice was serious, alert. "Emily, I found your brother." I sat up straight and gripped the phone. "Where is he?" "Nevada, a small town near Reno. He's with his wife. They're hiding in a motel, living on cash, using fake names." "Why isn't he calling? Why isn't he taking the kids?" Curtis paused. "Emily, you're not going to like what I'm about to tell you." My heart stopped. "What exactly?" "Your daughter-in-law, Hazel, is pregnant. She's not very far along, but she needs medical attention. They can't afford a hospital because it would reveal their location. They're desperate, Emily, and they're not coming back, at least not right now." I was silent. I just stayed silent, not knowing what to say. "There's something else," Curtis continued quietly. "The debt collector you met with, Dwayne Coltrane. He's not just a debt collector. He works for people who don't mess around. If your brother doesn't pay back the money, they'll come after you, after your mother, after the children. They won't stop." The phone almost fell out of my hands. "What should I do?" "I don't know," Curtis admitted, "but you have to decide quickly, before it's too late." I left for Nevada the next morning. Rena stayed with the kids. She took 2 more days off and didn't even ask why I had to go. She just hugged me at the door and whispered, "Be careful." Jason looked at me from behind her with big, worried eyes, but didn't ask any questions. Chloe waved her hand, not understanding what was going on. 6 hours on the road. 6 hours to think about what I would say to Liam when I saw him. 6 hours to decide if I could forgive him. Curtis sent me the address of the motel. Desert Star, a lonely building off the highway with a flickering neon sign and cracked asphalt in the parking lot. I arrived in the evening as the sun was setting behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and orange. The motel looked even worse than I had imagined. Peeling paint, rusty railings, trash under the stairs. Room 12. I knocked quietly. No one answered. I knocked again, louder. "Who's there?" Liam's voice, muffled, frightened. "It's me. Emily." Silence. Long, heavy. Then the door opened. Just a crack, the width of the chain. Liam looked at me from the darkness of the room, and I barely recognized him. Thin, with dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, wearing a dirty t-shirt. In the 3 years since I'd last seen him, he'd aged 10 years. "Amy," he whispered. "How are you?" "Let me in." He removed the chain and stepped back. The room was small and dark, with a single bed, an old TV, and a musty smell. Hazel sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a blanket, pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She had aged, too. Once a cheerful, smiling girl, she now looked exhausted, broken. "Emily?" She stood up but swayed, and Liam supported her. "You shouldn't have come." I closed the door behind me and stood in the middle of the room. "Where are my nephews?" Liam looked down. Are they safe?" "They're with me. With me, Liam, because you left them on my doorstep because of their mother." He flinched as if I'd hit him. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know she would do that. I asked her to take care of them for a few weeks while we sorted things out. She promised. She dumped them on me with a note and went on a cruise." I tried to speak calmly, but my voice trembled. Jason and Chloe stood in the cold for an hour. Chloe wet herself out of fear. They hadn't eaten all day. They thought they'd been abandoned. And you know what? They really were abandoned. "You did?" Liam sat down on the bed and buried his face in his hands. "I couldn't take them with me. It would have been dangerous." "More dangerous than leaving them without their parents?" "Yes." He stood up abruptly, his voice breaking. "Yes, Amy, more dangerous. Those people threatened me. They said they would break my legs if I didn't return the money. that they would come after my family. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So you ran away. I wanted to save them. Save them? I moved closer, looking him in the eyes. You abandoned them, Liam, your own children. You disappeared without a word, without an explanation, and now they don't know if you'll ever come back. Jason draws dark pictures at school. Chloe is afraid of the dark. They are scared because their father turned out to be a coward. Hazel cried, quietly, silently. Liam stood there, clenching his fists, and I could see something inside him breaking. I didn't mean to, he whispered. I didn't mean for this to happen. Then tell me how it happened. He sat down again, staring at the floor. Hazel wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her blanket. 3 years ago, Chloe got sick, he began quietly. Heart problems. She needed surgery, urgent. Insurance covered part of it, but not all. We were short $12,000. We didn't have that kind of money. I asked my mom. She said she couldn't. Said she barely had enough for herself. So I took out a loan. High interest, but what could I do? My daughter was dying. I listened, clenching my hands so I wouldn't interrupt. The operation went well. Chloe recovered, but the loan had to be repaid. I started paying, but the interest kept growing. I took out another loan to pay off the first one, then another, and suddenly I owed not $12,000, but $20,000, then $25,000. I couldn't stop. I worked 2 jobs, and so did Hazel, but it wasn't enough. Then I heard about the casino. Someone at work told me how he won $5,000 in one night. I thought, if I try, maybe I can get back on my feet. Maybe I can pay everything back and start over. You lost, I said quietly. He nodded. I lost everything I had, and I borrowed from people who don't ask for documents and don't wait. They gave me $10,000. They said I had to pay back $15,000 in a month. I couldn't. They came to the house. They threatened me. They said I had a week or they would break my legs. I asked my mother again, showed her all the papers, all the bills. I begged her. She refused. She said, "Sort it out yourself, Liam. I'm not an A-team. You're an adult." Hazel spoke for the first time, her voice quiet and broken. We didn't know what to do. They came every night. They knocked on the windows. They left notes. Jason and Chloe were afraid to sleep. We were afraid too. Then one of them said to Liam, "If you don't pay up, we'll take your children." And we decided it would be safer to leave them with their grandmother, temporarily, until we could hide, find work, get something back. You abandoned them, I repeated. We saved them. Liam stood up again. If we had taken them with us, those people would have found us. They would have found the children. Don't you understand, Amy? What it's like to live in fear every second? To think that your child will be taken away because of your mistakes? I looked at him, and something inside me softened, despite my anger. I understand that you were scared. I understand that you were trying to protect them, but you didn't think about how they would feel without you. Jason thinks you abandoned him. Chloe cries every night and asks when her mommy is coming. They don't understand, Liam. They're too young to understand. He sat down again and cried silently, his shoulders shaking. Hazel walked over to him and hugged him. I stood there, watching them. 2 broken, frightened people who had made the worst mistake out of fear. How much do you need? I finally asked. Liam looked up. What? How much money do you need to cover the debt? $30,000, but Amy, you can't. I'll take out a loan. I'll sell my car. I'll figure something out. No, he shook his head. No, I won't let you. It's not your choice, I interrupted. But there are conditions. You come back. With Hazel, you take the kids, you go to a therapist, you get a job, you pay off your debts, you rebuild your life. I'll help with the money, but the rest is up to you. Got it? Liam looked at me, and there was something like hope in his eyes. You'll really help? Yes. Because Jason and Chloe deserve parents, even imperfect ones like you. Hazel cried again, but now they were tears of relief. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Emily. I didn't answer. I just turned back to the door. Get ready. We're going home tomorrow morning. We left at dawn. Liam drove his old car. I rode in front. 6 hours back to the city, to the kids, to reality. I called Curtis from the road and told him about the deal. He said it was the right decision. We pulled up to my house in the evening. I got out of the car first and opened the door. Liam and Hazel stood on the porch, hesitant as if afraid to enter. Come in, I said. Rena came out of the kitchen, glanced cautiously at Liam and Hazel, then at me. I nodded. She understood. The kids are in the living room, she said quietly. Liam took a step forward and stopped at the threshold of the room. Jason was sitting on the floor, building with his blocks. Chloe was watching a cartoon, snuggled up with a pillow. Neither of them heard us come in. Jason! Liam's voice broke. The boy looked up. He saw his father. He froze. Dad? He whispered. Yes, son, it's me. Jason got up slowly, looking at Liam as if he was afraid he would disappear again. Chloe turned around, saw her mother, and screamed. She rushed to her, hugged her legs, and cried. Hazel knelt down, hugged her daughter, stroked her head, and cried with her. Jason didn't move. He stood there, looking at his father. You're back, he said quietly. Yes, I'm back, and I'm not leaving again. You promise? Liam walked over, crouched down in front of his son, and took him by the shoulders. I promise. Jason hugged him, timidly, cautiously, as if afraid to believe it, but then harder, and Liam hugged him back, closed his eyes, and I saw his lips tremble. I stood by the door, watching them, and felt something relax inside me. Maybe it won't be a perfect family. Maybe it will take them a long time to recover. But at least they were together. Rena touched my shoulder. You did the right thing. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and then I heard it. A knock on the door, sharp, loud, demanding. Rena looked at me anxiously. I went to the door and opened it. My mother was standing on the doorstep. Wendy, next to her were 2 police officers. It's her, my mother said, pointing at me. She kidnapped the children. She turned my son against me. I want you to arrest her. I stood there looking at her, unable to believe it. Even now, even after everything, she hadn't stopped. Ma'am, one of the policemen, the older one with gray hair at his temples, addressed me. You'll have to come with us so we can get to the bottom of this. I didn't kidnap anyone, I said calmly. The children are with me because their grandmother left them on my doorstep. I have proof. A note, photos, witnesses. She's lying. My mother raised her voice. She made it all up. She kidnapped the children, hid my son, destroyed my life. Mom, calm down. I tried to speak softly, but she wouldn't listen. Don't you dare tell me what to do. You ruined everything. I got fired. Roger dumped me. Everyone hates me, and it's all because of you. Neighbors came out onto their porches to watch. Someone took out their phone and started filming. The police tried to calm the situation down, but Wendy continued to scream. Then Liam came out of the house, thin, tired, but alive. The police turned to him. Are you Liam Karen? Asked the senior officer. Yes, that's me. You were reported missing. I know, I'm back. Voluntarily, I want to explain everything. Wendy looked at her son, and her face turned white. Liam, I'm back, Mom, for the kids. But you said you needed time. You asked me to take care of them. I asked you to take care of them, not throw them away like trash. She recoiled as if he had hit her. I didn't throw them away. I gave them to Emily because I knew she would take care of them. You dumped them on my doorstep without warning and went on a cruise. Liam's voice rose. You left my children out in the cold. Jason came out of the house. He stood in the doorway looking at his grandmother with big eyes full of tears. Then suddenly he shouted, You didn't want us! His voice pierced the silence, fragile and broken. You said we were a burden, that we were ruining your life. You don't need us. You don't love us. Everyone froze. Wendy stood looking at her grandson, her face white as chalk. Phones were recording. Neighbors were watching. The police exchanged glances. "That's not true," Wendy whispered. "I didn't say—" "You did!" Jason was crying now, his words barely audible through his tears. "You told Aunt Amy on the phone. I heard you. You said we were ruining your life, that you didn't want to see us anymore." Wendy stepped back, swayed. She looked around. At the police officers, at the neighbors, at the cameras. Then she suddenly turned and walked away, quickly, almost running to the car. She got in, started the engine, and drove away, without looking back. The senior police officer sighed. "I guess we'll have to deal with this tomorrow," he said. "But for now, everyone stays here. We'll be back in the morning for official explanations." They left. The neighbors dispersed. I stood on the porch, looking at the road where my mother had disappeared, and felt only emptiness. Liam came up to me and stood beside me. "She's not coming back," he said quietly. "I know. I'm sorry for everything. For her, for myself." I looked at him. "Just be a good father. That's all that matters." He nodded. Inside, Jason and Chloe sat with my mother, snuggling up to her on both sides. Hazel stroked their heads and whispered something soothing. Rena was making tea in the kitchen. Everything seemed almost normal, but I knew that by morning, the video would be all over the internet. Thousands of people would hear Jason's words, and my mother would never be able to escape the truth again. 8 months had flown by so quickly that I barely had time to realize how my life had changed. Sometimes I would wake up at night and think, did this really happen? Or did I dream it? But then I would look at my bank statements, at the payment schedule for the loan I took out to cover Liam's debts, and I would realize, yes, this is reality. My new reality. Liam and Hazel moved back into their old house, the one they lived in before they ran away. The debt collectors backed off after Curtis negotiated a payment schedule with them. It turned out that Dwayne Coltrane wasn't some kind of criminal authority, just a middleman who worked for a small loan company with a dubious reputation. Curtis found them a lawyer who reviewed the terms of the loan and found a number of violations. He threatened to take them to court. The company agreed to restructure the debt. Instead of $30,000 at exorbitant interest rates, Liam now paid $20,000 at a fixed rate over 5 years. It was still a large sum, but it was manageable. Liam took a second job, loading goods at a supermarket warehouse at night. Hazel also took on extra shifts. They barely slept, barely saw each other, but they tried. I saw it when I visited them every week to see my nephews, bring groceries, help with the bills. Jason returned to school in February. The first few weeks were difficult. The children asked where he had been, why he had disappeared, and he didn't know what to say. His teacher, Mrs. Garland, helped by talking to the class about how sometimes families go through difficult situations, and it's important to support each other. Jason started seeing the school psychologist. Chloe also saw a psychologist, a child psychologist who worked through games and drawings. For the first few months, she drew empty houses and faceless figures. But gradually, more colors appeared: yellow, green, even pink. In the last drawing she showed me, there was a family: Mom, Dad, Jason, her, and a little baby in a crib. "That's Kate," Chloe explained seriously. "My little sister. Kate was born in April. A girl with dark, fluffy hair and big brown eyes. She looks like Hazel. The birth went well. Emily helped with the hospital bill by taking out another loan. When I held Kate in my arms for the first time, looked at her tiny face, I felt something like hope. This child was born after everything that had happened, after the escape, after the debts, after the despair, and she was a new beginning." Liam stood nearby looking at his daughter, and in his eyes was something I hadn't seen in a long time: peace. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." I didn't answer, I just nodded. My own life became strangely calm and at the same time exhausting. The loans hung over me like a heavy burden. I sold my car, saw an old but reliable Honda that I loved. Now I took the bus to work, spending twice as much time on the road. The money I got for the car went toward the first payments. The rest was covered by monthly payments, which ate up almost half of my salary. I stopped going out for coffee with my colleagues. I stopped buying new things. I cooked at home and saved on everything. Rena sometimes brought me food, baked chicken, salads, soup. She said she had made too much and didn't want to throw it away. I knew she was lying, but I accepted it gratefully. "You've taken on too much," she said one evening as she sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea. "You don't have to save everyone." "It's my family." "So what? They're adults." Liam got himself into this mess. He should deal with it himself. "But the children aren't to blame, I agree. But you gave away the last thing you had, Amy. The last car, the last of your savings. When are you going to start thinking about yourself?" I didn't know how to respond, because she was right. But I couldn't do anything else. Curtis appeared in my life gradually, unnoticed. First as a detective, then as a consultant who helped sort out Liam's debts, then as a friend who called once a week to ask how I was doing, and then as something more. Our first meeting outside of work happened by accident. I was walking home from the bus stop carrying heavy grocery bags when a car suddenly pulled up beside me. Curtis. "Need a ride?" I hesitated. "It's on my way," he added. "Don't say no." I got in. We drove in silence for a few minutes until he spoke. "How are you doing?" "Fine." "Really?" I looked at him. "It's hard," I admitted, "but I'll manage." "You're a strong woman, Emily." "I don't feel strong." "But you are. Not many people in your position would have done what you did." We pulled up to my house. I took my bags and thanked him. And he said, "Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime? Just talk." I smiled. "Maybe." Coffee turned into beer. Beer turned into dinner at a cheap Chinese restaurant. Dinner turned into a walk in the park. We took our time. We didn't talk about relationships or the future. We just spent time together. Curtis understood me without words. He'd gone through hard times himself. Divorce, a custody battle for his daughter, financial problems. But now, he was just there. One evening, we sat in my kitchen. He brought beer. 6 bottles of cheap but cold beer. We talked about everything and nothing. About work, about children, about how hard it is to be an adult and responsible. "You know what impresses me about you?" he said suddenly. "What?" "You don't complain, even when it's hard. You just do what needs to be done." "Because what else is there to do? You could give up. Turn away from your brother, say it's not your problem. But the children aren't your responsibility. But you took it on. And that's rare." I took a sip of beer and felt the warmth spread inside me. "And you didn't give up either, even after the divorce." "I fought for my daughter." "That's different." "No, it's the same. You could have left, started a new life. But you stayed." He smiled, tiredly but sincerely. "Maybe we're both a little crazy." "Maybe." We sat in silence, and there was something calm and pleasant about it. Not passion, not excitement, just understanding. I hadn't seen Wendy since she moved to the neighboring state of Oklahoma, as I learned from a distant relative. She got a job in a small store and rented a room. No attempts to get in touch, no apologies. In September, Liam and Hazel threw a small dinner party to thank me for everything I had done. They invited me, Rena, and Curtis. The children set the table. Hazel cooked the meat, and Liam bought the wine. We sat at the table talking and laughing. Jason talked about school and his new friends. Chloe showed us her drawings. Kate slept peacefully in her crib, her cheeks rosy. "To family," Liam said, raising his glass. "To family," we repeated. I looked at them. At my brother, whom I barely knew, at his wife, at the children who had become part of my life, and felt something like happiness. Not bright, not loud, quiet, steady. Curtis sat next to me, sometimes touching my hand under the table. We didn't talk about the future. We didn't make plans. We were just together, and that was enough. After dinner, we sat on the porch and looked at the starry sky. Curtis held a bottle of beer, and I held mine. "You know what I like?" he said. "What?" "That you're not trying to fix everything. You just live. That's rare." "Because I'm tired of fixing things." "That's okay." "Really? Really, you've done enough. Allow yourself to just be." I smiled and took a sip of beer. "Maybe someday." "Maybe right now." We sat in silence, and that silence was everything I needed. Not a fairy tale, not an ideal, just life, complicated, imperfect, but real. That evening, as I was going to bed, I got a message from Liam. "Thank you, Amy, for everything. I know I can never give you back what you've given us, but I'll try to be better. I promise." I smiled and replied briefly, "Just be a good father. That's all." I put down my phone and closed my eyes, and for the first time in 8 months, I fell asleep peacefully, without anxious thoughts, without fear. Life wasn't perfect. The debts were still hanging over us. My mother still hadn't apologized. I still took the bus to work and saved on everything. But the children were safe. The family was holding together. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that I was on the right path. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. But it was mine. And that was enough.